How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm excited you're here. Today we're going to be talking about the Acolyte episode 6, which is titled Teach, Corrupt. And if you're new to the channel, I'm going to give you a fair warning here. I'm not a fan of this show. Now, there will be spoilers, like pretty much always, but at the same time, hardly anything happens, so I don't really know if I can spoil anything. I felt like hardly anything happened in this episode. I feel that way about most of them, but even this one, I'm like, there's 2 episodes left, and the story is so minimal. I don't understand almost even the point of this episode. It's so bland to me. So, I mean, if you like it, again, as I've tried to be fair about this whole thing, I want people to be able to enjoy what they enjoy, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna be honest in my criticisms and how I feel about it. So please, feel free to drop comments and tell me why you like it. I'd be interested to know why people like it if they do. But please, as I always say, be civil, especially to everyone else. No name calling, anything like that. Let's just have fun. Let's talk about it, and we can be passionate. Just be nice to each other. That being said, the episode picks up essentially where the last one leaves off. And the only thing that really happens in this episode is that people go to different locations. Really, that's about it. I don't feel like the story really progresses at all. Usher is now on some unnamed planet with the Sith. Looks very much like the planet, I think it's called Ahch-To, which is the planet that Luke is on in The Last Jedi. It may be a totally different planet, I don't know, but it looks very similar, and I don't know if they're trying to tie something together there, but whatever. She wakes up, she realizes she's somewhere else, she's in someone's lair, and then she quickly realizes that she's with the Sith, and she realizes that her sister has switched places with her. She finds her sister's stuff, and her sister's throwing knives, and she sees this Sith off in the distance, and he's about to go into the water. So she tries to sneak up on him. Already, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm kind of taken out of it, because yeah, she trained as a Padawan for a little bit, but from all the inferences we get, which are minimal, but we come to this understanding that she wasn't a very good Padawan. I think maybe she tried real hard, but either she's just not good with her Force sensitivity or something, she's just not good. So that's really weird for me to see her think that she might be able to take on some Sith with just a throwing knife. Even though the Sith haven't supposedly been around for a very long time, she should know what they are, or at least what a dark side Force user is, being raised in the Jedi Temple. I mean, they have classes, they have holocrons. It's not something that would be hidden from Padawans in their training. And sometimes I feel like that's what they're trying to convey in this show, is that the Jedi almost don't even know what the Sith are. And it's just so strange. I don't understand the reasoning by trying to suggest such a plot line. Regardless, she's gonna, I guess, supposedly attack him. She's sneaking up on him. Again, it's just silly too, because being a former Padawan, she should know that people can sense others in the Force. And the fact that he took out multiple Jedi easily, that his strength in the Force is quite powerful. So her sneaking up on him with not good skills is just kind of ridiculous to begin with. It's why not try to find a way of escape? Or maybe hold on to the knife, wait till he gets close quarters with you, and then do something with it. Sneak up on him just seems so ridiculous to me. And it is, because he does sense her. And so then they start talking. And so she's able, in her sneaking up on him, to grab his lightsaber. And he's like, pretty cool, huh? I bet you didn't keep yours when you left the academy. He's trying to create this juxtapositions, differentiation of the Jedi and the Sith, and the Jedi being rule followers, and how a lot of the rules are dumb and don't make any sense. And so he's just, obviously all the scenes between them is him trying to manipulate her and bring her to the dark side. She's trying to be tough and say I'm not as easily corrupted as my sister, but you can tell, at least, I don't know if it was intentional, but from the acting, it makes it seem like she's struggling actually pretty hard to not be swayed by the things he's saying. It seems like what he's saying has a pretty huge effect on her, which I'm not saying is necessarily right or wrong, but there's something to me that just kind of feels a little insincere about it. I don't know. So we're also looking at scenes with Sol and May. And they made it back to the ship on Kofar. He's supposedly under the impression that May is actually Usher. We got a parent trap situation here. I know a lot of fans have struggled with this, like myself, in that the Jedi are just, they're really dumb and they don't seem to know how to use the Force at all, and that's just super annoying. Especially with Sol being a Jedi Master and Osha being his former Padawan, there should be some familiarity there and some recognition in the Force. Also, he should be able to sense the darkness in May. And not just that, she's got a tattoo on her forehead. Yes, her hair's in the way. Don't use that excuse, please. That is ridiculous, because inevitably she's gonna be moving or something, or he might catch a glimpse of it. Even if he doesn't, the Force, guys. The Force. Like, why? And if you want to, spam the comments and say, well, the dark side clouds everything. Yeah, you're right, but that doesn't mean you can't sense the dark side. Just because it clouds something doesn't mean you can't sense it. Even Mace Windu senses in the prequels that the dark side surrounds the Chancellor. Yeah, he doesn't know that he's the Sith. When it's revealed that he's the Sith, it's obviously a duh light bulb moment, but it doesn't mean he doesn't sense the dark side. So it all clicks, obviously. But in this situation, this is a very specific context. There should be way more familiarity. Even if he's not 100% sure, there should be more of an indication that Saul is suspicious of whether this is May or Osha. And that could even lead him to look for the tattoo on her forehead and be like, hey, this might be May. And like use the Force to like blow her hair and be like, oh, it is May. It's just, it's so ridiculous. So Saul's trying to contact Master Vanestra and let her know how horribly the mission went. And May sneaking up on him and like has a knife or something. And she's about to, kill him. And he doesn't even sense the danger. He turns around and she's just like, ooh, what's up? And there's issues going on with the ship. He can't get in touch. And so because Osha's a mechanic and he thinks she's Osha, he's like, hey, can you go look at that? Fix it, and then we can get our message sent to the Jedi. So at this point, May's trying to play it cool. She goes back and is trying to figure out how she's going to either sabotage the ship or him or whatever. And so Pip knows it's not Osha. The droid knows that it's not Osha. A droid can tell, but a Jedi Master can't. Whatever, moving on. So she is trying to do stuff. Pip squirts oil on her. It's supposed to be funny and comical. And then she's like, I'm just gonna reset you back to factory settings. Like, what are we doing here? Is this Star Wars or is this just present day factory settings? I mean, I guess maybe it's not that big of a deal to be upset by, especially because he's smaller. But it's just like you're making a droid like an iPhone. And as other people have pointed out, like, they couldn't do that with C-3PO in The Rise of Skywalker. They had to like plug him into stuff and like wipe his memory and stuff. It wasn't as simple as like, oh, let me just hold a couple buttons, factory reset, whatever. Again, not a huge deal, but it's just kind of odd. It just feels very like present day, modern terminology, and I don't know, not that I'm invested really anyway, but it just kind of takes me out of it more. So then essentially we have scenes that are cutting back and forth between the sisters. And so the Sith, he's just trying to manipulate Osha and get her to see the Jedi in a bad light. He's telling her about his helmet, that it's cortosis, that there's sensory deprivation, and how it's like, oh, it's just like you in the Force when you wear the thing. I'm like, okay, I guess. And he's trying to get her to put it on. And she's like, I don't trust you, which is a good thing to say at first. But as we go along, you'll see just, again, how stupid all of these characters are. So then we also have Vernestra finally getting in contact with Saul. She gets his message. She's like, whoop, we messed up real bad. She's like talking to this other Jedi. She's like, get a team together. Let's go. Let's clean all this up. And yet again, I do not care for her character. I feel like, as many people have pointed out, that she's really suspect. Like, she's very secretive and wants to hide so many things, and it's like, what is she trying to hide? And it kind of makes you think, was she involved in all the stuff that went down on Brendok with the witches in some way? Like, we don't see her there in the flashback, but did she like spearhead that mission? Was she the one who like somehow noticed the witches, somehow knew about May and Osha first? Like, is she behind all this? Like, is she evil? Or do the writers just want you to think that she's evil and she actually ends up being some crazy hero? I don't know. Either way, I don't really care. I just know that she irritates me. And so she gets the team together and she's like, let's go to Master Saul and take care of everything. Well, while she's doing that and coming to Saul, Saul and May finally get the ship up and running, and they head back to Coruscant. So they switch kind of almost simultaneously. So now the Jedi are back on the planet. They see all the corpses in it. At least she has the decency, whether she's a good character or not, I don't know, but to say, hey, let's bury everybody. Like, that's kind of nice. Saul didn't even do that. And then one of those stupid moth bug things shows up again for the sole purpose of just showing Vernestra's lightsaber whip. I'm like, really? There really was no other point. Because there wasn't It was just one. It wasn't like there was a flock of them or anything like that. So that was a little odd. And I'll just be honest with you guys. And I'm not trying to be mean. If you think the lightsaber whip is cool, awesome. I'm glad you do. I love just straight up lightsabers, man. I think they're dope. I don't think you need to do too much to them to make them special. Now, I really don't want this to sound hypocritical because I'm not totally against them being in the Star Wars universe. It's a huge universe. There's all kinds of creatures and technology. I just prefer it to be in things like books or comic books. I don't really want to see it in live action. I think it looks goofy and I don't think it looks threatening. Now, I know that these things exist and I believe in some of the books and things I read. I could be wrong on this name, but I believe they called them like vibro whips. But the ones I've read about, they were actually like whips that when you ignited them, the whip itself would have like energy surrounding the whip. So it was actually a whip. It just had like the energy around it, not a literal light whip that just came out of a handle. I still not a big fan of that. I much prefer that to a straight light whip coming out of a handle. That being said, if you like it, fantastic. Moving on. So back on Sol's ship, we see that May is trying to figure out what to do, and we see Basil, who, if you remember from previous episodes, is their tracker dude who used Kelnaka's scent to track down his hut. So he knows what everyone smells like, I guess. So when May is on the ship, he knows that it's May. He knows that she's a villain, that it's not Osha. So he's like accusing her in his little alien language or whatever, and I don't even remember what she does. I think she might kick him, or I don't know if she like locks him in a little room or knocks him out, whatever. But you would think that since she's an assassin and that she is mentally unstable and that she flip-flops all the time from being bad to good, or what she thinks is good back to bad, it's like you would think that she would like kill him with one of her knives or something, but she doesn't kill him. So at a certain point, Sol gets in contact with Basil, realizes that it's May, finally, and then uses a stun gun on her and knocks her out. Well, when she wakes up, he's got her bound to a table, and the whole time throughout this episode, there's little references of like, are you going to tell me what actually happened on Brendok? And there's always these pauses, or they cut away, or something, where he goes to do something else. And it's like the last episode, they've tried to build up to this, like, yeah, he's gonna do it. Yeah, he's gonna get it off his chest, whatever it is. And you're just dragging it out the whole episode. And then they don't even give him a moment in this episode to explain what happened. There's only 2 episodes left. He does tell her once he realizes it's May. He's like, I've thought for 16 years what I would say to you if I ever saw you again. Which also kind of implies that he knew she didn't die that night that he saved Osha, which is weird. Unless he just means like, what I would say to you if you had survived. But I don't think he really said that. So that's super annoying because Sol's been one of the only characters in the show that seems to be somewhat decent or good. And I've been saying the whole time in my reviews, they're gonna do something that makes him look bad in your eyes. Whether they actually make him bad or that he had a huge moral failing. Obviously, I'm a person who believes in morality and I believe in forgiveness. So if he did do something wrong, if it was a moral failure, it's not like he can't be redeemed in some sense, but I just don't know if the writers are talented enough to present him in a way that he would be worthy of it. So that stinks too. It's like you have a somewhat good character, and even if he is a good character, I feel like they're just gonna completely ruin him no matter what they try to do. So that's super annoying. And he's one of the best actors, if not the best actor in the whole show. But once again, to reiterate, he said, I've thought about what I would tell you, basically saying, I'm gonna tell you, but then they cut away. So we don't get to hear the thing yet. And that makes me wonder, is like, are we literally just not gonna hear till the very last episode? Like, I have no idea. I would not be surprised. It's like, why are you stretching this out? It's probably not even that interesting. So then the episode kind of ends with Osha and the Sith on this planet. And she's looking at this helmet and she's, for some reason, really interested in it and kind of seems to be entranced by it. And so he's not around. So I guess she's thinking, oh, he won't see it if I put it on. So no big deal, right? Which again is stupid for her to say, I don't trust you, because it's like, what if it's a trap? What if there's something to do with that helmet that's going to seduce her more or whatever? We don't know exactly, but she was right to not trust him. But then all of a sudden she doesn't see him around. So she's like, oh, I guess I'll try it on. And like, why? It's like, don't you want to be good? Like, do you think you're going to use that in a way to trick him because of the sensory deprivation, that he won't be able to read your mind? Like, what is the reasoning to put on this helmet? It just doesn't make sense that she wants to put it on. And then we get this weird POV shot, like inside the helmet. We just see the eye openings and we don't even really see out of the eye openings. And then we just hear her heavy breathing, just And like, it's obviously meant to mimic Darth Vader's breathing. But who cares? Like, why? It's like, there's no relationship to her and Darth Vader, unless you're just trying to create some kind of parallel of being conceived by the Force and Anakin being conceived by the Force. And if that's it, like, that's still super silly. She's not like half machine. She doesn't need something with a respirator. Like, I don't understand. Are we just supposed to be like so wowed by your ability to understand that everyone knows that Darth Vader has a breathing pattern? That, oh my gosh, he sounds like Darth Vader. That's the coolest thing. Like, who cares? Like, man, I'm sorry. Like, I don't understand the point of this show. The story is so minimal, if there even really is one. Now, I'll try to be fair. Like I said, I think the actor who plays Sol is great. And I think the actor who plays the Sith, Chimere, whatever you want to call him, Smilo Ren, he's pretty good, especially since he's become the Sith. I think the dialogue was, I want to be fair, I think it was better, but I don't think it was much better, but I do think it was better, and so I was grateful for that. I didn't feel like every single line was cringy. And as I've said in previous reviews, I think too that he is such a good actor that he's able to make mediocre dialogue sound way better than it is. He has really good timing. He'll give a beat to something if he needs to. He makes good eye contact, facial expressions. He's very present in his scenes. He looks very comfortable with the character that he's playing. So his acting is really good. And so I like to appreciate good acting whenever I see it, whether it's a good show, bad show, whatever. I like good things about media. So if I see something cool, I want to point it out. So Sol, Chimere, best actors in the whole show, by far. Now, to kind of sum up my thoughts, they haven't really changed much. There's no sense of morality. Nothing really happens in this episode. Really, all that happens is Sol and May, they get off Kofar and they go towards Coruscant. Renestra and some Jedi go from Coruscant to Kofar. And then Usher and the Sith go to whatever planet he's on. Nothing else really happens. Like, we still don't know if this Sith is actually a master or if he has a master. He mentions, you know, the power of two, which is the rule of two. They mention these little things that we know about, but they're not connecting anything, and they're not leading to anything, as far as we can tell, that's very interesting or important, or again, that would connect to the greater story of Star Wars or expand on it in a way that would have any true meaning. So again, to be fair, I wouldn't say it's the worst episode of the series at all, but it's still not great. It's weird to compare like episodes of this show with other episodes because the story overall is just not good and it's not there. The characters are super boring. I'm not invested. The only character I was somewhat invested in is Sol, and every single episode I get the stronger feeling that they're going to ruin that character for me, which is not fun. Like, you shouldn't do that to your audience, especially as I mentioned before, when this show essentially is just morally bankrupt. There's really no good guys. There's really no bad guys. There's no reason to root for anybody at any point. So the one character that you feel like you can kind of root for, but you feel like they're going to just destroy that character, it's like, why am I hanging around for this? But I'd like to point out, if you're a first-time viewer here and you're wondering, well, then why are you watching the show? Why are you wasting your time? Totally understand that question. I watch this show because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, for one, and I don't like what they're doing to Star Wars, and I just want to be honest about that, and not just for the sake of like making rage content or clickbait content or, you know, having someone call me a grifter or that this is a grift. It's like, the numbers are pretty obvious if you look at like audience scores on all channels, whether that's, you know, Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb. People don't like the show, mostly. So if you do like the show and you think that we're all in the minority, I don't want to be rude, but it's like, you need to go look at the numbers. You need to look at what people are saying online and realize that there's way more frustration towards the show than people who like it. Doesn't mean you can't like it. I'm just saying most people don't like it. So I'm here to talk about it because I'm a huge fan. I don't like what they're doing to Star Wars. And also, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, it's very important to me to convey meaning and purpose in stories and why we watch movies, why we watch television, why we read books, the power that stories have in our lives to influence us. We take things from stories. We learn life lessons. You know, we apply these things to our lives. We have archetypes and we have legends that, you know, over time, they essentially reappear in different genres and different spaces and different mediums. And there's just so much deconstruction of good things happening in this show, whether it's Star Wars or not. It's just cutting away all the things that we truly love about stories, things that inspire us. And so I want to point that out to you. And I hope you understand, I'm not doing that to try and make you cynical or try and make you hate things. I just want people to be aware that art is important. And when people are making art, they're saying something to you. Like, yes, they're entertaining you. And that should be one of the biggest top priorities, is to entertain people, to give them some escapism and some fun. But make no mistake, people are talking to you and they're trying to tell you things. in the stories. So if you're just intaking garbage, if you're just like, oh, it's Star Wars, pretty colors, and you're not thinking about it, if you're just shutting off your brain every time you watch art, that's not good. It's actually, in my opinion, it's kind of dangerous, because then you absorb things that can be immoral, things that are wrong, that are bad, and that can influence you. Listen, I'm not trying to call anybody stupid. I'm not trying to say that you can't handle the show or anything like that. I just think it's important, especially if there's young people out there watching the show and people aren't talking to them about it. And if they're not, explaining things to them, if they're not explaining solid examples of right versus wrong, good versus evil, and morality, and being virtuous and protecting those you love, if they're not talking to young people about this when they watch these stories, that's concerning to me. I know that may be a little over dramatic for some of you. I don't really care. I just got to be honest about it because I'm passionate about this. This is what I want to do with my life, and it is what I do with my life. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Like I said, if you liked it, you are welcome to comment here. If you didn't like it, you're welcome to comment here. Be civil. I so appreciate you guys taking the time to watch it. I seriously would love to know what you think. And if you do like it, please let me know what you like about it. Maybe you can open my eyes a little bit. But thank you for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video or if you found any value in it, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me and help out this channel. I really appreciate all of you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.